I have 4 Boy Genius Basketball League championships and 4 MVPs, and LeBron has none. But, however, they're going to say LeBron has 1 in-season tournament championship and Mike has nothing. That's for you bronzesexuals out there. Just going to put that out there. Just going to put that on the internet. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in on To The Point with the King. You guys can find us Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, too many of those, YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us, and go down there, click subscribe, click like, because once we get to 750 subs, hey, this is going out to somebody.
Very nice.
And the weather's getting cold outside. It's almost Christmas. Fa la 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 la. Right? Thank you guys for your support so far through our journey, and thank you for supporting our fantastic guests, our amazing guests, especially my man right there. I call him B, but that's beyond the locker room. How are you doing today, my man? And how can people get hold of you if you want to get held of?
Hey man, it's good to see you. Good to be back on the show, man. It's you know where to find me at Beyond Locker Room RM on X, Twitter, wherever they call it these days. You can find me there. You know, you might find me on Odd Spacer too. And sometimes, you know, on weekends, we have a weekly podcast that comes out on Basketball Rewind that I'm part of. Hey, that's where you find me as well too, man. So, and of course here, depending on the time and place, I will be here at times as well too.
Depending on how the topic is. Shout out to Kenyon for Basketball Rewind. But look, B, can we get into this? Like, for real. You sparked me. I didn't sleep that night. I seriously barely slept. My boss saw me the next morning at work and he was like, "What's wrong with you?" But you said something when we were on the Raptors Live TV space on X, right? Shout out to Nelly J and Fahim. But you mentioned something after a Raptors loss where your words were, "What is the rhyme and reason behind the Toronto Raptors?" Can I? You only got 20 seconds on that to say something on that space. But right now, the floor is yours, my friend. Can you please clarify this and let me get some sleep tonight?
Well, what I was getting at, I think it was after the Knicks game, and what I was getting at was it started off with why the Raptors were so poor defensively, and then it led into another conversation about why you see what you're seeing. So to start from the defensive perspective, okay. You see guys out there that are not really. Everyone thinks we're supposed to be a good defensive team, but when you look at the players themselves, there's a lot of flaws in their game, more than others in this case. So what I mean by that is, if you start with the starting lineup, overall, I think you have some very, very good to pretty decent defenders, but but it's one of those things where sometimes they have some weaknesses in their game in this case that get exposed. For example, sometimes Pascal gets caught ball watching. He get beat backdoor. Scotty in this case is a perimeter defender. He's a lot to be desired. OG has a knack to want. He's got into this steals mentality where he's looking for exactly. He's giant jump lanes all the time. Pearl has just been abysmal in this case overall when it comes to defending anything around the rim. I would say Schroeder is probably your most fundamentally good defensive, but even he's showing signs of it where he's starting to go under screens on guys that you can't go under screens on. Like, guys, you can't be going under screens under Trae Young. That can't be happening. So that's the group that's the better defensive group. When you get the second unit now, you got guys like Gary Trent Jr. that they're allergic to defense. Malachi Flynn tries hard, but he's not a good defender. When you're getting 4 fouls in 8 minutes, that's just a reflection of his situation. Then you get the Precious and Boucher, who in theory people think are supposed to be good defenders, but these guys just, I hate to say it, but just don't make smart decisions on the court when it comes to stuff, defensively or offensively. And those guys get exploited as well too. So you throw all that together, and then the mistakes at the front, the starting line makes up. This is why you have the defensive issues you have. Now, the question you asked, why is this happening? Why are some of these guys, because you can see what I'm seeing.
Rhyme and the reason.
Right. Why are guys still getting minutes when you can see in this case they should have no business getting certain minutes or getting quick hooks? And every night they keep rolling them out for their 20 minutes every night. Now, you will hear from the management side, you'll hear from Darko more about developing and stuff like that. First thing, Boucher's like 30 years old. What are you developing at this point? Right? Flynn, Boucher, Flynn, Precious, they're 4-year dudes. At this point, you kind of know what you have at this point. All right? They're not like spring chickens. They came in at 18 and they're now 22. They came in at 20. They came in essentially at 22 or 21, and now like 25 and 26. These are not young guys anymore, right? So why is this happening? Well, the reason why it's happening is, my perspective is that the front office is fighting a war that does not exist anymore. And what I mean by that is that I would say specifically Masai is trying to prove to folks that used to be here, a la Nick Nurse, and to be a lesser extent Fred VanVleet, that no, these guys actually can play, and you guys were wrong. They can play. And we had discussions last year about Nick Nurse and this bench. And Nick Nurse was refusing to bring certain guys out. And now we're about 25 games in. I think we can understand that, you know what?
So that's the reason?
Nick Nurse knew what he's talking about. So when you made the phrase about good luck with these guys, you guys can interpret how you want. But whatever way you want to interpret it, this is the result of what we're seeing. Because there's certain guys here that I still question if they're players that should actually be part of an NBA rotation. Some of them even question if they actually should be on an NBA roster. But they keep on putting them out every night for 20 minutes, and we keep on seeing the bar get lower and lower and lower. Where you'll have fans saying, hey, X player had a good night. He's only minus 10 tonight, but he had a good night overall. It's like, that's a good night? Okay.
I hear you on that one. I hear you on that. I hear you. You have some valid points there. May I weigh in?
Sure, your show, man. Tell me what's up.
Okay. So when you just said something about development. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, Pascal, OG, they are a little bit beyond in their seasons and their years. But when we look at certain players that are going to carry this team for the next couple years, whether we like it or not, right? Such as the Scotty, the Malachi, the Precious, right? Precious is what? This is his fourth year or third year. Scotty, it's his third year. Malachi, it's his fourth year, right? Certain guys, but they, other than Scotty, they really did not get their time to shine under Nick Nurse. I get what you're saying about Nick Nurse and not wanting to play these players. I get it, because it's the win now mentality. I get it, totally get it. But there's also that win couple years mentality, right?
Yeah.
Which is having, hear me out for a second here, okay? Which is having guys like Scotty, Malachi, Precious, Koloko, having these guys play with veterans, right? And understanding the game, right? Even sitting on the bench right beside an Otto Porter, right? Even sitting on the bench beside like a Thaddeus Young. You know what I mean? Just understanding them and listening to them and trying to apply it. Because this year, like you just said, Nick Nurse did not play the bench. But this year is a completely different coaching staff and a completely different style. And you said Masai wanted to shove it to them, but Masai has that vision 6-9, right? Yes, you are correct. They are not defensively as strong as they were. Understandable, right? I think we all can take that into account. But they still have the transition. They still have the point in the paints game. They still have the mid-range area to somewhat of an extent, but the three-point shooting, you just mentioned Gary Trent. Now, my question to you is Gary Trent supposedly to be the guy to rely upon when it comes to the three-point shooting, coming off the bench and having that demeanor of looking like he doesn't want to be here anymore, right? And not performing and putting up the numbers when the Raptors do need it. What are your thoughts when it comes to addressing the situation with Gary Trent and the Raptors three-point shooting?
So let me address Gary Trent's situation and kind of relate it back to something else you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Here's my thing with Gary Trent. Actually, I don't blame Gary Trent for being upset he is. I think in this case, this franchise has done him dirty, quite honestly with you. I think it started last year with Nick Nurse.
Hot take.
Yeah, because when it's all said and done, you're a professional. Whatever you want to say about Gary Trent Jr., Gary Trent Jr. doesn't make any qualms or rocks any boats. Gary Trent doesn't badmouth anybody in the papers or in the TV. Gary Trent just comes out there and just plays his game. But yet you had the coach out here bad-mouthing him behind his back to the press, pulling him out of the lineup before 5 minutes before the 10 hour before the game starting. And he's like, what? You know, he's learning about it. And then he's got the microphone in his face asking about, what do you think of this? He's like, I'm literally hearing this from you now. And I don't care what player you are. There's nothing more disrespectful than something like that. Now,
oh, yeah, you don't want to play. As a player, you don't want to play.
Right. Now, let's look into this year now. Front office is going here. Fine. You think Fred's gone, Nick's gone. I'm sure Gary's a happy camper. Decides to say, you know what? I'm going to put my player option. I'm going to ride back in for various reasons. I'm not saying because he's all happy about the Raptors. There's a big fat TV contract coming down the road. I get why he wants us to do that. That's fine. It's his prerogative. However, I think most people over the summer thought probably he would then be entered in the starting lineup. And then we get a training camp. And what ends up happening? He's not in the starting lineup. All of a sudden, Dennis Schroeder, a man that has never started pretty much since he was a rookie. In this case with Atlanta, in this case here, all of a sudden now he's in the starting lineup. Now, this leads to my second point, which ties in this, which goes to Gary and everything else. This, you remember? Okay, I'm not sure if you ever read comic books or whatever, but it's a phrase everyone knows, right? We talk about Bizarro world, right?
Yep.
Bizarro.
Upside down, man. DC. I love it.
Exactly. Everything's role reversed. You know, in the Raptor lands, we are in the Bizarro world when it comes to Raptor lands, because everything that you think will logically be what you should do, the Raptors do the opposite of it. So what do I mean by that? Gary Trent Jr. has shown statistically he has been better with starters, and yet somehow we put him to the bench. Dennis Schroeder has shown he could be a capable guy to man your second unit off the bench. And what do? We put him as a starter. Going back to what you said a little earlier about the 6'9" vision. We're supposed to have all these small forward, power forward dudes. But what do? We run our offense through a point guard and a center that can't shoot. And that's for the second year in a row. All right? The second year in a row. So people ask me, like, oh, there's a Fred Nick Nurse thing. Oh, no. We now got our new relationship, Darko and Dennis. The same thing. So you're telling me you got two, I won't count OG so much, two wings are more than capable of handling the ball. More than capable of sharing the ball and assisting, setting guys up. They're at 6'9". But yet you're not using them to their fullest ability, but you're rather give the ball to Dennis Schroeder, who's never started, and then say, hey, you have the reins. Which also messes up the Gary Trent situation. This is what I'm talking about, where it's like Bizarro land. We talk about development. So let's go at your development point. Okay, so we're developing guys that have been around the league for 4 years already. And then we're going to say, okay, the one guy we really should be developing.
All I'm saying is they didn't really have a chance. They didn't really get to prove it.
I would say the one guy, the bunch, you can make that argument for me legitimately is Flynn. I don't think the other dudes in this case didn't have a chance. We watched Precious play. We watched Precious play all last year. Yeah. It wasn't pretty most of the time, unless he played in Miami. It wasn't pretty. Okay, Boucher gives you Boucher. There's nothing wrong with what Boucher gives you, but we know what a Boucher night looks like. It could be real great, but at some point we're gonna have a bumpy ride at some point. We know what the situation is. So those guys played last year. Flynn didn't get much of a chance, fair enough, but even the time we saw Flynn, it wasn't pretty. And what we're seeing this year, it still ain't pretty. So what are we trying to prove? Now, the one guy, to your point about development, you think you would get more minutes for would be Grady Dick. So the 19-year-old in this case here, the one guy you think you might want to give some development to, they send him down to the G League. Fine, plays the G League. I get it. Now
The
what?
Dick found the G spot. Can I just say that?
Right.
Go on.
There you go. Found the G spot. Now here we are. Now he's in the G League, and you think, okay, fine. You think he's not ready yet. You would think you get more time for Otto. Man, I had to put Otto on a milk carton to find out where Otto was after that. I don't understand. Like, is Otto around? And of course, after about 3 games, Otto's foot's hurting him again, or whatever the case would be. So you knew that was gonna happen.
Is that
so
toe? That toe.
Toe. Yeah, I tell you, toe, man. Put some tussin on it, man.
Bunions or something? Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Put some tussin on it and get out there, man. But whatever the case may be, Otto's hurt again. But even when Otto was available, he wouldn't play. Even after shitting Grady down. So what's the point of doing that? Right? This is what I'm talking about. This team has no idea what they're doing. No actual direction of what they want to do. And I think this speaks to a bigger issue about the personnel, but we'll get to that another time we get the players. But yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to get into that with you. So basically what you're telling myself and our lovely viewers out there is that I guess you can equivocate it to a sense of confusion and a lack of structure for the way these Raptors are playing. Like, there is one thing, like, you can have all the talent in the freaking world. Wait, we're already this far in on YouTube? Okay, you can have all the talent in the fucking world, okay? But when it comes to coaching, they can think what they want, but it's the execution on the field and taking care of business. Yeah, you might want to take some of your players and you might want to utilize their abilities and maximize it, but so just give me a yes or no. So you're basically telling me there's a state of confusion.
I'll make it simple for you.
Within the structure?
Yes, and no, they are not maximizing the players that you're talking about. That is where they're failing.
Okay.
So
this is where we go. It's the rhyme and reason. This is not 3-6 Mafia, and we're not winning an Oscar. Okay? This is not hustle and flow. We're actually speaking about this. Wow. Okay, so let me ask you, which players do you think, before we get out of here, which players do you think that need to be utilized more to maximize their potential that they potentially have? Because let's face it, the Raptors do have a lot of potentially good players, right? And a lot of us are upset when we watch the game. Myself, as a non-Raptors fan, right, we'll get a little annoyed when we see that these players can do a lot better. Do you see any players out there that can do better if they fix the system?
Yeah, I'll say up front, I think I said to you before the season started, I was very bullish on this team. I thought they could win up to 48 games in the right circumstances.
I said 44.
43 to 40, 43 to 48, somewhere in that range. So I thought it would be a playoff team. Here's the thing, where when it comes to players, I'll just go with some guys. I won't go with the usual suspects. Well, let's go here. Let's take Grady, for example. Grady, in this case, if you're asking a young 19-year-old who's like an all-American player who's used to being involved in the offense when he's in college at a blue chip university, and then when you bring him here, all you tell him in this case, sit in the corner to shoot threes. Okay? He's a movement shooter. That's what he does best. And we have him stationary in the corner as if he's PJ Tucker. Please make it make sense. Please make it make sense. This is what I'm talking about. And then you're wondering why the kid's confidence is like pretty much down to here. That's one example. I keep going down the list. There's like a million for all sorts of players.
Give me some more players. Give me some more players.
Okay, here's another one in this case here. All right, let's go with this one. Pascal Siakam. So you're going to tell me in this case here, Pascal, great post player, great in the mid-range in this case here, could actually shoot off a movement as well too. And when's the last time you saw a stagger screen for Pascal to knock down a jump shot?
No.
Huh? Not right.
No.
We don't do that.
Been a minute.
I think he hit one up for 3 against some team out west when we played a road trip sometime about a month ago. But we don't do that. No. What we'll do is we'll stick him in the corner when the time comes and do the same thing we did with Grady. Right?
Or on the elbow.
Or the elbow. In this case, say, here, shoot threes. Fine, stationary. I'm glad he's getting out of his rut a little bit because he seems like he's now letting it fire a bit, but that's not the best way to utilize him. I mean, same thing goes in this case when it comes to Scotty. When you have Scotty out there, Scotty should be Scotty, and to some lesser extent probably Pascal, should be at the elbow. They should be there, not Pirtle, but yet somehow we put Pirtle there. So when you put Pirtle there and you have him quote the hub of the offense, what do you think other teams are going to do defensively? They're going to sit on your passes because they know you can't shoot. They're just going to sit there and wait for the pass.
Hold up for a second there. I got to hit you up with this, man. Scotty, this year, broke the sophomore curse.
Well, he's not sophomore. Yeah, but what I'm saying is Scotty should be in the role Pirtle's in. Scotty can pass. Scotty is right now showing to be a very good mid-range shooter. Do they put him there?
Scotty's been showing that he could be everybody on the court, but in reality, he cannot be everybody on the court at the same time.
But goes back to my point. We're not working through our power forwards that have that ability. We're giving it to Dennis Schroeder in this case here. That's my point. Now, usage-wise, thank goodness Pascal's and Scotty's usage is like 25 or 26 now. I like to ramp it up a couple more points, to be honest with you. Maybe high 20. Schroeder's still about 22. That is extremely high for Schroeder. Schroeder should be in the teens, right? That's what I'm talking about, where it's like you have all these things that don't make sense.
But don't you think there's a reason that they brought Schroeder?
That was my theory is that was pretty much after Darko told. I think my theory
that was
is,
pretty much Fred VanVleet's gone. We need somebody.
Not true, but I think Darko said, "Get me my guy. I know I will run your offense, Messiah, as you like, but just one promise: get me my guy." That was pretty much the deal. Because anyone trying to think that this is some offense Darko's implementing, there's no offense Darko's implementing. This offense was being implemented last year after Pirtle got traded to this team. For about 2-3 weeks, the same thing was going on. 50 million pick and rolls with Fred VanVleet, Pascal in the corner, Scotty in the corner. I don't know how many games we watched. We're wondering, like, why is Scotty and Pascal sitting in the corner for threes and Fred's running about 25, the 30 pick and rolls every night? That was the offense. What do we see now? Remove Fred, insert Dennis. Same thing. And every time they run through their small forwards or their power forwards, we have success.
I kind of beg to differ on that. I see what you're saying, but I beg to differ on that one because I've seen a lot more potential in Scotty being unlocked. I see he's gotten his 3-point game better than what it was, right? You see him literally everywhere on the fucking court, right? He's managing the offense. His mid-range game is starting to become solidified, right? His in the paint game, well, everybody knows he has that, right? And I think the departure of Fred VanVleet and the logic of Nick Nurse has opened up Scotty's game. It's basically like taking the dog off the leash.
It's not anything about opening Scotty's game. My point is I'm trying to lean into it even more. And Pascal's game. That's my point, right? So if it's me, I will remove Schroeder from the starting lineup and put Trent in and let those two dudes go and do what they gotta do. And you have spacing on the wings. You have OG on one side, Trent Jr. on the other, and let Pascal and Scotty do their thing. But instead, we're running pick and rolls with Jakob Poeltl, which are dead possessions. Why are we? There's nothing good coming out of that most times. Nothing good coming out of it.
Yeah,
Poeltl in this case might get right. Poeltl's not going to be able to hit a shot. If he goes to the hoop, he might get fouled, which means he's going to miss the free throws. Or you're going to have Schroeder in this case, pull up a floater it can't hit, and he's not a great finisher around the rim. So what are we doing? We're all the possessions I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying what you're saying. I'm leaning into it even more. But these guys keep going away from it. That was the point if Fred was leaving. You thought you get more Pascal and Scotty doing that. Right. There you go. That's a good place to stop.
You know what? Listen, before we cut out of here, I know we disagreed on a few things, but we agreed on multiple things, right? And we will continue to do this for you ladies and gentlemen out there. Believe me and B, we oh my goodness, behind the scenes, we've spoken about so many episodes we can talk about. But B, what I would leave off with is my last thing to say is I agree with you 100%. Roll more in with Scotty because that's where the future is going, right? Uh, what I brought up earlier, address the 3-point shooting. I agree with you that yes, Schroeder can dial it back a bit. Scotty is the de facto point guard of this team, and I do see a lot of potential within this team, right? Like you said earlier, you thought 46, 48 games, right? Wins, right? I thought about 44 around there. Last year I was right, ladies and gentlemen. I did say 42. Um, but we're seeing a change in the organization and how the players are being utilized and how everything is going. Can you leave anybody out there with one more point? The floor is yours, my man.
I mean,
Hit me.
it's just like find a clear direction. I'm of the opinion. Obviously, Scotty is the future of the team. I do think I'm of the opinion. I think it's quite clear that he and Siakam can always work together, and I think in this case, Siakam actually helps his game. So I think keep going with those two and get some shooters around these guys, man. Like like it's like they take an old phrase or old pop culture reference. These guys try to make these guys like Evil Knievel, man. They go through go through fires, moats with the crocodiles to try to score. Like, why are you bringing a set? Literally, Pirtle is arguably the worst center in the league when it comes to offense. Like,
wait, the fawns jumping over the shark tank.
Right? Take some old school things. Check it up on YouTube, kids. Like, I'm just saying, like, when it's all said and done, like, why are you making it so difficult for these guys to create offense where you get like literally the worst starting center in the league when it comes to actually being able to shoot? I don't think there's a guy that starts in the league as a center that can shoot worse than Pirtle. Go down the list. Not saying they're better players, but when it comes to actually being able to hit a shot, I don't think there's anyone in the league that's worse than Pirtle when it comes to a starting center that can't shoot like him. I'm running through my head, and I'm sitting there going like, no, even the bad teams, like Portland, they have Ayton. He can shoot. Like, like, it's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Thank you for getting it off your chest.
Off my chest.
Right? No, for real, man. I wanted to give you a space. Like, shit. I just wanted to hear what you had to say and ask you questions, bro.
Oh,
I know we don't have much time, but you guys go check out the space on X. But no, for real, thank you for coming on here. Can you, before we get out of here, can you let the people remind them again where to get hold of you if you want to be getting hold of?
Yeah, man, you can find me at Beyond Locker Room. That's RM on X. You can also find me weekly on the Basketball Rewind. Great podcast that Kenyon does, or Hopeful on X as well too. That does, and I'm honored that, just like here, honored to be on there as well too on the weekly. So yeah, you can find me there, and of course, every once in a while you might find my mug on this place, man. To the point. So yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, my man. You guys can find me at King Hussein. You guys know what to do. To the point. Go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. Remember, we're doing that giveaway, okay? Right? You guys can find sometimes myself and Beyond are on X on the RLTV space at the end of the game, right? And thank you guys for enjoying us. Thank you for enjoying our guests that are To the Point family. Thank you if you are watching, because I consider you To the Point family. So on behalf of myself, Kenyon, Arturus, Skip, whoever else comes on, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and